This show is part of One Place, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to today's Sports Roundup. We have a packed episode for you. We're starting with Kylian Mbappe, who is leading the La Liga Golden Boot race but now faces a major injury hurdle. Then, the women's NCAA tournament field is taking shape as automatic bids begin to fly in. Over in Melbourne, Mercedes just shocked the F1 world with a front-row lockout for the Australian Grand Prix. Shohei Ohtani is already putting up video game numbers in the World Baseball Classic, with a historic Grand Slam. Mohamed Salah continues to rewrite the Liverpool record books as his future at Anfield remains a hot topic. In the NHL, the Colorado Avalanche just ended a record-breaking winning streak for the Dallas Stars. We'll also look at the 8 college basketball bubble teams that are sweating out the next 9 days. We're diving into the fascinating family tree of Klay Thompson and his athletic siblings. Chelsea is dealing with a massive injury list before their high-stakes FA Cup clash with Wrexham. Finally, we'll break down which free agent quarterbacks are the best bets for NFL teams this offseason.
Next up, we're heading to Spain, where the race for the Pichichi is heating up under some very unfortunate circumstances. Kylian Mbappe is proving that even in a Real Madrid side that has faced its fair share of dysfunction lately, he remains the most lethal finisher in the world. He ran away with the top scorer award last season, and he was well on track to defend that title in 2025-26. However, the landscape of La Liga just shifted significantly. Mbappe has suffered a knee injury that could keep him sidelined for weeks, or potentially even months. This opens a massive window for the chasing pack from Barcelona to catch up in the Golden Boot race. It's a frustrating turn for Madrid, who have already dealt with criticism that Mbappe's individual success has sometimes come at the cost of the team's collective rhythm.
It really is a bittersweet situation for the Frenchman. He scored 6 goals more than anyone else in his debut season in white, yet the team finished without a collective trophy. Now, with this injury, we have to see if the likes of Robert Lewandowski can reclaim the crown he won back in 2003. The Pichichi, named after the legendary athletic club striker Rafael Moreno, has been dominated by names like Messi and Benzema in recent years. Mbappe seemed destined to join that multi-win club quickly. Real fans will be watching the medical reports closely, because without his clinical finishing, the gap between them and a surging Barcelona could become insurmountable very quickly.
Now let's shift to the hardwood, where the road to the Final Four is officially underway.
March Madness is finally here for the women's tournament, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Between now and Selection Sunday on March 15th, a total of 31 automatic berths will be decided. We've already seen the Ohio Valley Conference Tournament Championship take place this weekend, but the real fireworks are coming on Sunday. That's when 7 more tournament berths will be locked in, including the heavy hitters from the ACC, Big 12, Big 10, and the SEC. It's that time of year where one bad shooting night can end a season, or one miracle run can put a mid-major on the national map.
Exactly. And for those teams not lucky enough to snag an automatic bid, the 37 at-large spots are going to be incredibly competitive. We're looking at the Final Four in Phoenix this April, and the bracketology is already pointing towards some familiar powerhouses as the projected number 1 seeds. The selection show is set for 8 p.m. Eastern on March 15th, and until then, every conference tournament game is basically a high-pressure audition. It's the ultimate test of depth and endurance, especially for those major conferences where the competition is so fierce that even a top 10 ranking doesn't guarantee you a smooth path to the trophy. Next up, we're going from the court to the track for the start of the 2026 Formula One season. The Australian Grand Prix qualifying session was absolutely electric, and it delivered a result very few saw coming. George Russell has taken pole position, leading a stunning front-row lockout for Mercedes alongside his rookie teammate Kimi Antonelli. Russell's lap was described as being in rocket ship territory, clocking in at a blistering 118. It's a massive statement for Mercedes, who seem to have found a pace that has left even the defending champions at McLaren scrambling. But the real story of the day might be the absolute disaster for Max Verstappen. The 4-time champion lost his rear axle in Q1, sliding through the gravel and into the barrier, ending his qualifying session before it really even began.
The drama in Q3 was just as wild. There was a red flag because Mercedes actually released Antonelli with cooling blowers still attached to the car. They fell off on the track, and Lando Norris actually ran over one, which shattered the tool and sent debris everywhere. It was a frantic scene in the pits as McLaren worked to repair Norris's front wing. Despite the chaos, the young guns really stepped up. We saw 18-year-old rookie Arvid Lindblad reach Q3 in his debut for Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, and Isaac Hadjar put a Red Bull into the top 3 for the first time in a debut since Verstappen himself. It feels like we are entering a completely new era of F1, where the old guard is under serious pressure from these fearless newcomers.
Now let's shift to the diamond, where a global superstar is living up to every bit of the hype.
Japan is off to a scorching start in the 2026 World Baseball Classic, and to the surprise of absolutely no one, Shohei Ohtani is the reason why. In a game against Chinese Taipei that was shortened to 7 innings due to a 1-3, 0 blowout, Ohtani put on a clinic. He drove in 5 runs and came just a triple short of the cycle. What's truly mind-blowing is that he accomplished most of this before the 3rd inning even started. He opened with a 117-mile-per-hour double that nearly tore the glove off the right fielder, and then he followed that up with a massive grand slam in the 2nd inning during a 10-run outburst by the Japanese squad.
It's just classic Ohtani. He was 3-for-3 by the time the 2nd inning ended. He even added a single later in that same inning to bring home another run. He was eventually lifted for a pinch hitter in the 7th, but the damage was well and truly done. This kind of performance sets a massive tone for the rest of the tournament. When you have a player who can impact the game that heavily in just the first hour of play, it puts an incredible amount of pressure on every other team in the bracket. Japan looks like the team to beat, and Ohtani looks like he's playing a different sport than everyone else right now. Next up, we're looking at a legend in the making at Anfield. Mohamed Salah is continuing to cement his status as one of the greatest to ever wear the Liverpool shirt. He's already overtaken legends like Robbie Fowler and Steven Gerrard on the all-time scoring list, and he recently became just the 5th player in the club's history to reach 200 goals in all competitions. His consistency is honestly staggering. He has a goals-per-game ratio of 0.60, which is second only to Gordon Hodgson in the club's top 10. While Erling Haaland might have taken his single-season scoring record, Salah is still the one writing the history books at Anfield, having inspired the team to every domestic trophy and a Champions League title since he arrived from Roma in 2017.
The big question now is how much longer the story continues. Salah is 33 now, and while he's closing in on 2nd-placed Roger Hunt, many believe he won't stay beyond this summer. He's currently the leading non-UK goalscorer in Premier League history, but reaching Ian Rush's record of 346 goals seems like a bridge too far unless he signs a major extension. Rush spent 16 years at the club to hit that mark, whereas Salah has done his damage in just 8. Regardless of when he leaves, his legacy as part of that legendary trio with Mane and Firmino is untouchable. He brought Liverpool their first league title of the modern era, and that's something fans will never forget.
Now let's shift to the ice, where a historic winning streak just came to a dramatic end.
The Dallas Stars were on an absolute tear, winning 10 games in a row to set a new franchise record. But that streak hit a wall on Friday night against the Colorado Avalanche. It was a thriller that went all the way to a shootout, with Colorado pulling off a 5-4 victory. Ballerini Shushkin was the hero for the Avs. He scored the game-tying goal with just 15 seconds left in regulation, while they had an extra skater on the ice. Then, he stepped up in the shootout to help clinch the win. It was a massive result for Colorado, who are currently leading the NHL, and managed to widen their lead over their Central Division rivals.
It wasn't just the Avalanche making headlines, though. We saw Matthew Tkachuk net a hat trick for the Florida Panthers to snap their 4-game losing streak. Florida is in a tough spot, currently 8 points out of a wild card spot and trying to avoid becoming the first defending Cup champion to miss the playoffs in a decade. Meanwhile, we saw some significant trade deadline action, like the Blues trading away their captain Braden Shen to the Islanders. Even with a depleted roster, St. Louis managed an overtime win against the Sharks. It's that time of the year where every point matters, and the movement we're seeing at the deadline is going to define the playoff race over the next few weeks. Next up, we're diving back into college basketball to look at the teams sitting on the edge of their seats. Selection Sunday is only 9 days away, and for teams on the bubble, the anxiety is reaching a fever pitch. We're looking at 8 specific teams that have the most work to do, starting with the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Indiana Hoosiers. Both teams are sitting with mediocre quad-I records, and their matchup this Saturday is essentially an elimination game for their tournament hopes. Ohio State has the talent with Bruce Thornton, but they've struggled to win the big ones. Indiana, on the other hand, just snapped a 4-game skid, but they likely need to make a deep run in the Big Ten tournament to feel safe about an at-large bid.
It's not just the Big Ten either. In the SEC, Auburn is a total conundrum. They are technically under .500 in conference play, but they have some massive wins over teams like Florida and Arkansas. The committee usually values who you beat over who you lost to, but at some point, the sheer number of losses has to matter. Then you have New Mexico and Virginia Tech, who are both currently projected as first 4 out. New Mexico really hurt themselves with a home loss to Colorado State recently, and now they probably have to reach their conference title game just to stay in the conversation. It's going to be a wild weekend of must-win basketball across the country.
Now let's shift to a more personal look at one of the NBA's most famous families.
Klay Thompson is obviously a legend for his 4 championships with the Warriors, but when you look at his family tree, it's clear that elite athleticism is just in his DNA. His brother Trace is a veteran MLB outfielder who is currently representing Great Britain in the World Baseball Classic. Trace qualifies through their father's Bahamian roots, and he's been a solid journeyman in the majors for years. Then you have the oldest brother, Michael, who played in the NBA briefly and is now a pro scout for the Hawks. And of course, their dad Michael was the #1 overall pick in 1978 and won 2 titles with the Lakers. Even their mom Julie was a standout volleyball star in college.
It's an incredible legacy, and Klay's personal life has been making just as many waves lately. He's been dating rapper Megan Thee Stallion since 2005, and things seem to be getting pretty serious. Megan recently mentioned she's manifesting an engagement, which has the tabloids in a frenzy. On a sadder note, Klay also recently said goodbye to his beloved bulldog Rocco, who was a fixture by his side throughout the entire Warriors dynasty. Rocco even had his own massive social media following. It's interesting to see how Klay has managed to balance this high-profile personal life and a family of multi-sport stars while remaining one of the most focused shooters the game has ever seen. Next up, we're checking in on the mounting injury crisis at Stamford Bridge. Liam Rosinier's time as Chelsea manager has been a bit of a roller coaster so far. He's had some great runs, including 5 straight victories, but he's currently hamstrung by a massive injury list as they prepare to face Wrexham in the FA Cup. Marc Cucurella is finally nearing a return from a hamstring issue, which is good news, but the rest of the report is pretty grim. Estevao and Jamie Gittins are both dealing with long-term hamstring tears, and Levi Colwill is out for the entire season with an ACL injury. It's forced Rosinier to get very creative with his lineups, often relying on younger players or those returning from the fringes like Malang Sarr.
The situation with Mykhailo Mudryk is also still a major cloud over the club, as he remains unavailable following a failed doping test back in December. Heading into a match against a championship darling like Wrexham, these absences are exactly what an underdog needs to sniff an upset. Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney will certainly have their team fired up, and if Chelsea can't get their defensive rotations right with Cucurella just coming back, it could be a very long afternoon for the Blues. Rosinier has a lot of tactical work to do to ensure they don't become the latest giant killing statistic in the FA Cup.
Finally, we're looking at the big moves and bigger questions in the NFL as free agency kicks off.
The big news this week was the Detroit Lions trading David Montgomery to the Houston Texans. It's a fascinating move because Houston clearly wanted a veteran presence to help CJ Stroud, but they gave up quite a bit, a 4th-round pick and offensive lineman Juice Scruggs. Most analysts seem to think the Lions came out on top here. With Jahmyr Gibbs emerging as a true superstar, Montgomery had become a bit of a luxury in Detroit. By moving him, the Lions get younger and pick up draft capital, while the Texans are betting that Montgomery's productivity can continue behind a line that's already struggling with depth.
And then there's the quarterback drama in Minnesota. There are reports that the Vikings might already be looking for a way to move on from J.J. McCarthy. He's only started 10 games, but the highs and lows have been so extreme that the new interim front office might be looking for a veteran like Kyler Murray. Imagine Murray in that offense. With Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, it could completely redefine his career, much like Sam Darnold did last year. There's also talk of them being interested in Anthony Richardson, who clearly needs a fresh start after a disappointing stint in Indy. It's a reminder of how fast the window closes for young quarterbacks in this league if they don't show immediate consistency.
That's all for today's Sports Roundup. We've covered everything from the pitch in Spain to the tracks in Australia, and the madness is only just beginning. Make sure to follow the show so you don't miss our next daily briefing on the stories that matter most. We'll be back tomorrow with more updates. Thanks for listening.